Howdy ho, gentlemen.
Howdy.
How's
Good on
everybody
ya.
doing?
Yeah, great.
Great. Well, it's
Great,
Wednesday
grand,
again.
wonderful.
Wednesday again. Nice to be here with you guys.
Indeed.
June 11th, 9:02 a.m. here on the west coast of California, United States of America. We have is today a good looking chart. I saw that Ethereum did some movements yesterday.
Rip.
Yeah, it woke up from its coma, which is nice.
Yeah.
After getting fucking stuffed in its locker and just welted for a couple months.
Just no lunch, short bus all the way to school every day for the last 6 months.
I've never seen a special needs kid get beat up so hard as Ethereum.
So bad. So bad. Yeah. But yeah, it's looking good.
Yeah, it's great.
Looking
good. That's nice to see. It's very nice to see.
Well, there's some economic data, since I guess crypto is just completely dependent on the United States now. Everything else just floats off to the wayside, and it's just dependent on U.S. economic policy. Is the entire crypto market is just only cares about the U.S. and what our interest rates are over here.
I wonder why. Do you have any speculation of why it's like that?
It's because America is the most powerful country in the world by far.
Yeah, but there's also a lot of money in other markets, so I'm not sure if that's the answer, but I do think that potentially American industry is adopting it and maybe embracing it a bit more dynamically, and specifically, the exposure to the open markets, where you're able to see a lot more economic entry coming out of American industry, specifically in our public markets. So maybe that's it. But whatever it is, the second that the interest rates do come down in America, is we're gonna see Bitcoin at 120K.
Yeah.
That's just like written in the stars.
Or your spidey sense pointing at that it may happen this year? Oh, we lost him. Is your spidey sense saying that this could happen this year?
Yeah, it's actually a really good question. I've been reading about what's going on with interest rates. Actually, economic data, I didn't see what it is today, but the economic data that either comes out today or tomorrow, CPI data, and is gonna be consequential in terms of whether and what that happens. I think you got Trump. He wants a full 1% drop on the Fed rate. So he'd like to, he's disconnected from reality. So, he just wants it because he knows it'll be good. He doesn't care if it will be good for America. It'll just be good for industry at this point, which is true. And it'll certainly be good for crypto. So if it was just about like doing what's good in the short term, then you just drop the rates. Might as well just drop the rates to zero, right? Because who cares about the health of America past Trump's term? If you could just have the most high flying term ever, then that's all he cares, and that's that. But there's independent agencies that are, for at least for the time being, operating the Fed. And so, I just seen that the prediction is for somewhere between 3 and 1 rate cut this year. And I don't think they will be more than a half point at a time. I don't think there'll be more than a quarter point at a time. A half point would be crazy. And so is there a chance that we could go down by up to a full point this year? I'd say it's super low. This is just in my my personal opinion. And I think the chance of getting like a quarter point to a half point rate drop between now and the end of the year is probably high, probably like upwards of 80%, is what I would say. So, I mean, I think it would be very unlikely that we get no rate cut between now and the end of the year. So I'd say like upwards of 80% chance that there's at least a quarter point cut. And I'd say like upwards of a 90% chance that the rates don't come down by anything even near 1 point. So, but I don't think that there needs to even be a rate cut for Bitcoin to get to 120K. I think there's other reasons that we could see resistance break at like 112, and it's a fire up to at least tap 120. We get a new all-time high. I think that could happen in the next 90 days. It's just my assessment. What do you think, Caleb?
Oh boy. More or less agree with you about the Fed. I don't know. I can't give those percentages as well as you can. I just have kind of a vague instinct that if they can get government spending down, then that will reduce inflation. Also, if they can deregulate the economy, then that will reduce inflation because the economy, people make things cheaper, yada yada yada. Although tariffs will be pro-inflation, but the downstream impact of tariffs, it's raising taxes, which is taking money out of the economy. So maybe it's a wash. That's a good question, right?
Yeah.
Do tariffs increase or decrease inflation? Then anything that decreases inflation, gives the bank the ability to feel comfortable with cutting rates, which they need to do that. They can't just keep their foot on the neck of the financial system forever, because you're gonna have big banks that are complaining that nobody wants to put money in deposit, because why would you when you can just go get a better rate at Uncle Sam?
Yeah.
So I feel like they have to cut rates. Now, how much and when, that's your narrative sounds very plausible. I can't really say I'm any smarter than that. Now about Bitcoin, this is a total like gut instinct, but I think it either needs to go tap 150 or it needs to relax and go back under 100 and rebuild momentum again.
Yeah.
That's my gut instinct from how it just naturally tends to behave.
Yeah. I think that's probably a good assessment. The charting that I watch, I definitely follow a lot of economic data and also follow a lot of people charting Bitcoin. And there's definitely targets in the mid 120s, and I've seen targets in the mid 130s. I haven't seen like charting targets that get it up over the mid 130s. But look, there's a lot of reason to hold Bitcoin. And the one data point that you just can't get over is, let's just say there were 21 million Bitcoins out there, which we know there aren't, because I think it's some crazy number. Like, do you remember the numbers? Something like 30+% of all the Bitcoins in the world are lost, or something crazy like that. So there aren't 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be in circulation. But even if there were, there's not enough Bitcoin for every millionaire to have one Bitcoin. And to make that even more difficult, you got people like Michael Saylor who have tens of thousands of Bitcoins. Or is he up over 100,000? I haven't looked at his treasury number. It's a massive number. So, I mean, there's tens of thousands of millionaires that can't get one. So you just see once you have corporations putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet, it's just inevitable for the price to fly up into the hundreds of thousands. It's just
what I like to say is Bitcoin is a bet against humanity. It's like a bet that everybody's going to come together and play kumbaya, and the UN and everybody will get along, is never going to happen ever. And every bank is going to never trust any other bank, and every currency is going to be printed away to nothing, and humans are just going to continue to be dodgy humans. For me, that's what Bitcoin is.
Yeah. Look, but Bitcoin also I think that the revolution for me, from my personal opinion, and this is where I think the explosion of the Bitcoin price, this is why I think Bitcoin easily will go over $1 million in time. I mean, that could be 20 years, it could be 50 years. I don't know what the horizon is for that, but it will happen as long as humanity gets there. Is just because of the transactability of it. It's just like the ability to transact multinational, global, I should say. It's just the reduction of friction, the ability to move large amounts of money, the 24/7 nature of crypto. And we're also seeing that even major institutions are leaning towards adopting stable coins because of the 24-hour nature of it. And so I just think that we're going to see Bitcoin become more of the bedrock of the world's financial systems, and you'll see banks start to accept stablecoin as a way of transacting on a Sunday or a Saturday, or 4 o'clock in the morning, and just be able to move money around the world in a transparent, immutable, frictionless way. So yeah, just where we're going versus where we come from, you just can see the writing on the wall. And so yeah, I mean, but this also lends itself, let's just like pivot a little bit, spend 10 minutes talking about Bitcoin. And why do we talk about Bitcoin? Why do we talk about crypto from a macro sense as it relates to Packet? Because the catalyst for the Packet project was always around microtransactions. That was like the story that we always told. And over the last 6 years that Packet has been in existence, we've seen unbelievable improvements in the underlying transactability of digital assets. I mean, that's just fact. And with what layer twos have done, even with the ease to do Bitcoin transactions, and also the reduction in cost of Bitcoin transactions. I mean, as we originally set out to do Packet as a layer one, as a Bitcoin fork, anticipating the the evolution of Lightning Network, and which is evolved slowly. It's still percolating there, but Bitcoin's done what it's done. ETH is lagging behind dramatically. If you look into the Bitcoin Ethereum pair, its structure, there was like a 6-year symmetrical triangle that got broken, and it's just been absolutely crushed. It's been crushed. It's been down to I haven't looked at that chart in a hot minute, but last time I looked, it was disgusting. It was the ratio is horrible. And now that Bitcoin's gone up to all-time highs and continues to make new all-time highs, Ethereum hasn't gotten back to even $3,000 in the last well over 6 months. So with Packet, the big idea was really leveraging the ability to use an immutable ledger for digital transactions in the entertainment space. That was always the vision behind it. From a networking standpoint, making it so that you have a decentralized mesh network that was powered by the people, but being able to use the cryptocurrency natively for microtransactions. That was always the major part of the thesis. And now we've seen just tremendous evolution around digital currencies, and particularly why we ended up on Base is just the strength of the technology from wallets to low cost transactability, and then just
also the ability to get to dollars, you had to stable coins from.
True. Yeah, just being able to get a fiat off ramp, which is evolving. And someone just told me, maybe it was one of you guys, that Binance just opened up USD deposits again.
Yeah, Binance US.
Which is just kind of showing that we're seeing that progression. We also just saw, Circle just IPO which I don't know if anybody got a piece of that IPO. I think it IPO'd at like $30. And it's trading at like, last I looked, it was well over 120, 130 bucks. So.
Yeah, well, so the same thing happened with Coinbase, and then Coinbase just got absolutely thumped in the head for a year. And now Coinbase is up. If you would have bought it all the way, I got right when Coinbase IPO'd, I bought it, at the top, and then I kept buying it all the way down and just followed it all the way down. And I was like, oh man, I gotta stop buying this thing.
Did it go down to like $8 or something?
No, I don't think it went that low. Maybe, I don't know. But
it was bad. No, maybe it wasn't. But it got really, really wrecked. And then around Trump election, everything.
Circle will probably have a similar trajectory. There'll be a correction off of that high, but
I'm sure.
But yeah, I mean, it is pretty incredible that that's happening. It's interesting that when it IPO'd, when Ripple was like trying to basically buy it.
Yeah, it was interesting that they were talking about buying it in advance of the IPO, and now it's probably well out of reach. I mean, with the type of growth that it had.
Unless they bought it all the way up to the reason it's that high is because Ripple basically
trying to take it out on the public
trying
market.
To take a majority.
Yeah, it's a good point. I actually don't know. I haven't looked into that too much, but with where and it's a little bit of a frustrating kind of story for Packet right now because what Packet needs to do is rebuild on the community side and get people to align with the objectives and the story of where this thing's going. And I think a lot of people rally behind the original thesis, which is get the next billion people online. But as we've kind of complained about in the past, nobody really took any initiative around any of the things that would be required for that to happen on the physical infrastructure standpoint. So, even though people were rallied around that mission in terms like theoretically, maybe ideologically, like no one actually took action. And I think that's why I have a lot of respect for what Helium accomplished with deploying, over 1 million units out into the wild. But eventually Helium had to pivot as well because that technology was so low, had such low bandwidth capabilities that they really couldn't do much with it. And now they're, completely pivoted into mobile and, basically they're just like a T-Mobile US based distributor, I guess. It's just offering some interesting products and always doing great marketing, but abandon their original thesis, and that's not a bad thing. Sometimes you just have to evolve, and I think with Packet, it's a similar story in that we're very much moving towards this content story, and there's still an infrastructure story that is more than a story. It's the bedrock of the project. And so, from a marketing standpoint, again, just a lot of opportunity for people to continue to set up nodes, maintain nodes on a global basis, and then having that materialize into a product, an app that people can use, called Packet TV. I think that will be a really cool thing. It won't be live until 2026, but at the point that Packet TV is live, I think that will be a cool, materialization of the story where you're just like, wow, we were there early on. This thing went through a lot of permutations, and now there's a couple million people using Packet TV. Like, I think that would be a really cool, place to arrive with everything that we've been working on. So a long way to go, but and also a lot of work left to do to rebuild the community around this new story. And I also think that's hard in today's market just because people are so afraid to invest in projects in crypto right now because nothing is safe in terms of trajectory of price. Like you enter, you're like, wow, I'm really excited about this. And then you look at your bag and you're down 20, 50, 90%. in like a day or two. And it's just if people, got every green candle. Meanwhile, Bitcoin's been sustaining well over 100,000 for quite a long time now, but anything that's like low cap, it just gets clipped. Like no thesis is safe, no asset treasury is safe. So that's I could see a lot of fear in the marketplace. Like people will ride a green candle and then they exit, and to the detriment of holders. And yeah, it's just I think you just have to keep, if you're gonna grow something, you just need to have like a lot of dry powder, I guess, and you just gotta punish sellers for a long period of time. That's what they did with Bitcoin. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna sell my Bitcoin here at 80,000. This thing will see 60 again, and now you're at 100, and you're like, oh shit, do I gotta buy my Bitcoin back at 100? Before it goes to 120, 130, and then I'm never see these prices again. You just have to kind of psychologically, mind fuck people, I guess. And then you get people to hold. Same thing happened with XRP, right? Nobody wanted to buy XRP at 40 cents, and then it went to $3. And even in crashing, it's only gone down to like 170, 180 for like 15 minutes. And now it's got a pretty solid floor around $2. So yeah, you missed the boat at sub $1, and may never see that again. And if you believe in XRP, you're buying it at $2 now. That's just where you're at. So I think that's what you end up having to do. Now, of course, these are projects that have unbelievable treasuries, in the billions. But you gotta accomplish something comparable in the low cap space, which is having millions in backing. So yeah, crypto's got a long way to go.
It's got a long way to go, but slow and steady wins the race. I mean, you look at the stock market and these big industries, like they didn't get created overnight, and they had to gain a lot of trust. And the truth of the matter is, crypto started as a bunch of rebellious people that were like saying fuck banks and fuck the system. And now you're saying that is the system. And there's a long way to go from it. Plus there's tons of propaganda around how it's used by criminals and for money laundering, and the whole propaganda machine that banks put together to have people get fear around crypto.
Yeah.
But all those excuses that people have had in the past for fear mongering have been proven that there's no reason not to have Bitcoin. There's literally zero reason not to have exposure to Bitcoin. Now, altcoins and all this stuff, sure, there's speculation and a lot of other things, but there's zero reason for Bitcoin. And as more legit projects come forward, and as more problems get solved with this technology, that's when real adoption comes. And the truth is, when more companies use it to improve the experience for customers, and customers have no idea that they're using the technology, is when it comes to full adoption.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I think that's where we want to get to, and it has to be more around the user experience, really kind of dialing in the user experience. So that's where I think Packet TV can bring a lot of benefit for sure. But yeah, we've been working on it.
Sorry.
I have a somewhat unrelated topic, but it was crossed my mind and I thought it was really interesting to discuss. So I don't know exactly how much it is, but I think it's something like $5 trillion that is coming up for refunding of U.S. government debt. So Scott Bessent has a big problem on his hands, and he has to refund all this debt. And the interest rate right now is kind of high. So refunding it at this high interest is not going to be very fun. So there's been a lot of speculation about what he's going to try to do to get the interest rate down. And I think that people thought that Elon Musk and Doge was going to be the thing that would get the interest down by reducing government spending, which would then reduce inflation, and then interest would come down, and then they could borrow more. and they would not be spending as much, so they'd be able to borrow at a better rate. But now, more recently, we hear tell that Elon and Bessent got in a fist fight in the White House,
Yeah.
and that now Elon is kind of on the outs with them. So what's kind of crossing my mind, what I'm wondering is, okay, so Elon has his plan, which I think we kind of guess what it is. Cut government, make it efficient. Do the Javier Milei thing, which it seems to be of mediocre amount of effect. And then we have the Scott Bessent idea, and nobody knows what that is. Nobody knows what Scott Bessent has up his sleeve. I mean, him and Elon must have been fighting over something, so Elon has his plan and Scott has his plan, but nobody really knows what Scott's plan is. And that's something that's kind of intriguing to me. Like, what could he be planning to do that's the alternative to Elon's plan?
Yeah. I think it's all bullshit, to be honest with you. I think the whole thing is theater. Yeah.
Well, that's why they sent in the National Guards. That's why they've sent all this, like, you distract the people with these things that are going to get people on social media and talking about all this and that. But everyone is ignoring the real elephant in the room, which is exactly what you're talking about, and the economic data that's coming back. And I believe that that's also why Bitcoin is pumping right now, is because everyone's like, this is a fucking train wreck, just at full speed on course to hit a brick wall.
Maybe. I mean, look, I don't think that, the theater part about saving money is, at this point with the big beautiful bill, is a farce. I don't, at this point, it's just like, okay, we don't care. And if Doge saved, what was it, like 150 billion, and then just like for sending in the National Guard, which was complete theater, is 150 million. So like 10% of the savings just like go out the window in one day, one decision. Now we're spending 50 million on Trump's birthday parade. Right there, you just went through 10% of all the savings of Doge, just incidental spending that's just unbudgeted BS. So this ain't about saving money for American people, because we're racking up another $4 to $5 trillion in debt. And the $2 trillion number, even after dismantling fundamental agencies in American, American, what would you call it? Just like bureaucracy, I guess. Didn't save a lot of money, and firing a lot of people. There's this weird inverse action where between unemployment and and how that affects inflation, and then how like consumer prices affects inflation, and they're kind of going in opposite directions. So it's always like a weird thing to understand which one's going to have a bigger impact. But yeah, it's like, if you raise rates, that how that affects unemployment, and then if you lower rates, how that affects unemployment and how that affects the market. So there's these different like polar effects that are in place. So yeah, I think that the Republican idea that like, hey, we're the party of fiscal conservation is now, I think that has got so many holes punched in it. It's just a sinking raft. I don't think anyone really believes that anymore at this point. And I mean, they've been saying it long enough that people are like, no, but Doge is, cutting, fraud and waste, but it just didn't accomplish that. And they couldn't find any fraud. And the idea that they were cutting waste is really just like firing thousands of, employees and harming American families in the process. So yeah, I just don't think any of that really matters anymore. But when you do, like, what you're 100% right on is that it's extremely costly now for the government to borrow money, and they need to get that money at a lower rate, especially if they're going to, raise the deficit, which is, we're spending so much money on interest. It's like, how do you, this whole thing that Elon was saying that I think people really got on board with, which is like, hey, we got to come up with a solution. Trump's got his the gold card, and I heard him throw out some crazy number about like, if you could sell this gold card for 50 or for $5 million, and he could sell 10 million of them, that's like 50 trillion, and then he could just like pay off the national debt with income. It's just like these numbers are ridiculous. There's not 10 million people that are going to pay $5 million for citizenship anytime soon. I mean, it's a good theory, maybe an interesting business plan. I just don't know how realistic it is to even get thousands of people to pay $1 million or $5 million for a gold card. So,
he starts a war in like the entire rest of the world, and then he charges people every penny that they have for the ability to come to the US. Then I guess that would work, but that's a really fucked up plan.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of people are deciding to go elsewhere and not coming to America. I know as far as like the travel industry goes, one of my best friends, he's in the travel industry, and his business is to bring people to California to go surf, and their numbers are down over 50%. People from Europe just are not coming to America.
It's too much of a pain.
It's too much of a pain, and the thing is people are afraid that they're going to get deported, or they're not going to get entry, and then or they could get just there's just so much fear about coming here now, and nobody wants to come, and and so it's like
it's been that way for a while though.
It's
probably gotten worse, but
as far as the travel industry goes, this year is worse than COVID. So when COVID hit and there was the travel restrictions, people were still figuring out a way to come to America. But now with Trump in office, people don't even want to risk coming here. And so to think that people are going to buy a gold card to come here is wishful thinking, because now people, and they're seeing like riots and all this shit going on in California. Like, people don't want to be around that shit. They want to go on a vacation where they're going to be relaxed and have fun and not have to worry about,
go to the south of France.
Yeah, they don't want to walk down to Los Angeles and get a freaking Molotov.
They want to come visit you, Caleb. Not good. Get a Molotov cocktail thrown at them.
Social unrest.
I want to
better protests than California. Just hands down, like the protests
everybody
in California are lame.
Yeah, the images that people are seeing it's all bad. I mean, even though that's all also theater, it's like, sure, there was like a couple streets where there's
it was bad. It was bad down here for sure.
But the way I'm just saying, like the way that it gets inflamed in the media is they show these cars burning and stuff, and it looks like post-apocalyptic, and
it looks like it's everywhere, but it's actually contained to like one area,
to like 2 streets. And like, they did shut down a freeway, but that's become a thing in downtown where
downtown. I mean, downtown is fucked right now. There is
you don't want to be
extreme damage. There's millions of dollars of damage. There's looting of businesses. Like, it's similar to like the BLM riots that were happening. So it's definitely bad. And I actually truthfully don't even have a lot of issue with the National Guard coming in to tame everything. The big issue is doing it without the state involved and circumventing the state, which is just not how this country operates, is just sending in without even coordinating with the state, or the state doesn't even, or even the mayor doesn't even know what is happening, because the federal government is not coordinating at the state level.
I just read that he was prepared to activate the National Guard before the riots even broke out. That it was always like he had it pre-planned, and it was like ready to go, and they were looking for a trigger point, and so it just makes you, if you want to get into it, you want to put your tin hat on, it would be, you could say that the paid agitators potentially paid to create a scenario that would enable that to happen. But that's neither here nor there. There's, we're in a situation that, certainly is harming, just America's image in the world. It couldn't be worse. I mean, it's terrible, to be honest. But like I said at the start, economically, and especially around crypto, the deregulation around crypto, in a brighter on a brighter note, is certainly happening under this administration. And even though it also has led to some of the most rampant market manipulation and just absolute fraud on behalf of these exchanges that are essentially at this point completely deregulated, we're back to the wild west of like 2016, 2017, as far as just being able to like rip off customers and, you know, jack everybody's money in the leverage markets. And it's just, what you can do today is wild. And what these people are doing today is wild, and the amount of money being made is wild. So there's ample opportunity for sure. And in this landscape, if you can figure out how to recalibrate as a crypto project, there's certainly a lot of opportunity. I don't think that you can get away from the fact that you need really, really good marketing and a lot of dry powder and great market making to substantiate the rise of any altcoin in this landscape. Unless you're one of those like, America projects that, what do they call them? They're like the American, I forget the name of the coins. It's just escaping my mind, but coins that are originated in America that are going to be exempt from capital gains. Those coins, there are a lot of them are what they call like the dino coins. Like they're just old projects from 2016, or some of them earlier, some of them right around that era. But they're also well substantiated, all top 100 coins, and they continue to do well. But if you're anything like out of the top 500, yeah, it's still going to be an uphill battle. And so Packet has that uphill battle. But in good news, we've been also talking with some marketing folks and getting some new blood on the marketing side for Packet in particular. We got some updates that are imminent coming to the website that will help tell the story and do a little bit more.
I could give a little preview. It's not done, and there's some like kind of glaring errors. I don't know if we want to show it publicly, but
maybe just talk about it. Maybe next week we'll like actually do a presentation on what kind of the marketing strategy will look like on a short-term basis. But under our current paradigm with the network steward, we're allocating resources specifically to this initiative, and we're contacted by someone named Anon, who has been excited about what is possible with the Packet project, approached us, came back with a proposal. It's based in the US, so I'm excited about just having someone who speaks really good English, perfect English, and has deep roots in the crypto industry to come in and help bring to life our the marketing potential for Packet. So yeah, take it away, Josh.
Yeah, we just been talking about kind of what it takes to get back in the game as far as the market goes, as far as the crypto side goes. We've been really focused on the Packet TV side of things, which we believe will give us the dry powder that we need to run a real strong marketing campaign. But that's what was excited about Anon coming to us and saying like he wants to jump in and help and help tell the story from the crypto side of things and bring a lot of value over there, which will be extremely helpful and impactful.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the things that he's focused on, or was?
Yeah, there's it's kind of broken up into different modules, really, from like an introductory standpoint to an actionable standpoint. So just starting out with a lot of education about what is Packet, and creating kind of an educational process, and then letting that dovetail into action of getting people to set up domains and start expanding the domain name collection and development. and then really focusing on getting influencers and tastemakers that can help paint the chart and bring in their communities to into the Packet ecosystem.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's just been needed, and yeah, it's very refreshing to have someone pushing on that. Yeah, they're really starting today. You know, we made the first made a partial payment last week just to get things started, and then make the second payment today. And yeah, just get this thing back on rails. Like I mentioned, there's certainly some updates that are needed to the website. So, you know, I feel it's funny because there was so much talk for years and years and years about utility. It was always like utility, and we were always reaching around utility. It was like the edge extenders, you know, everything we were doing with business, you know, businesses using the Packet network, hotels, restaurants, coffee shops, et cetera, right? And but the scalability of that, right? There, even though there were tens of thousands of people using tech unknowingly, right, connecting to the internet, Airbnbs and stuff like this, you know, it wasn't like actively using the tech, knowing like, hey, I'm using Packet. Like it was more just like, hey, I'm at an Airbnb and I'm connected to the internet, or I'm at a coffee shop. But with Packet TV, it changes that, and it actually gives people who are learning about the project something to look forward to. Like, oh wow, this application is coming. I'm going to literally be able to watch content in this manner, and I think that's really, really compelling. Now, one of the issues with, and I've been thinking about this a bit, is that from a streaming standpoint, you know, really in Western countries is where streaming is best, just because of the internet availability and the strength of internet and bandwidth. So not to say that the goal is to geo limit it, but there will definitely be like better accessibility in Western countries. But what I was also thinking is that with Packet VPN enabling people to domicile or to point to their internet location being a Western country, or United States in particular, will make it really easy to access. So I think there will be a nice marriage between the Packet VPN technology, which I would certainly like to see improve, the infrastructure part of the story, which is obviously fundamental to the network, the domain name system, which as it relates to Packet Hub is still part of where we see Packet TV thriving. And then of course Packet TV, which is just a top of the funnel way for content creators to get distribution, and more importantly, a way for audiences to get access to free content. You know, where we live in a world right now where, you know, streaming in particular is pretty SVODed out. Like you just have to have subscriptions, and then if you don't have a subscription, for example, let's say you have like Amazon Prime, used to be free. You could just watch content for free without ads. And then now what they did is they said, hey, you got to pay us a few bucks a month for Amazon Prime with no ads. And if you don't, no problem, but you're going to watch ads. And then we also see Netflix coming out with a low tier ad supported version. And that's again fast. So we're seeing the marketplace move towards fast, where people want to get content for free and are willing to watch ads. You know, anybody who watches sports is comfortable watching ads. That's just the way it is. Doesn't matter what you're watching. If you're watching football, soccer, or basketball, whatever, you're watching ads. That's just the way it works. And in most live sports are ad supported. There's not a lot that you just get without ads. So this is just where the market's going, and the ad market is explosive. You know, it's now a $1.1 trillion market annualized. And then the global streaming market's now a $675 billion market. So these are just huge markets. And yeah, so this is the direction that I see it going. And it, you know, to hark back to the complaints from people, which is like, well, what's the utility? What's the utility? Well, the utility is going to be streaming. That'll be like just the consumer facing, audience facing application where it's like you can say I don't give a crap about anything crypto related, but like I love getting content for free. You'll be able to use Packet TV, and we see that launching, most likely in April 2026. It's kind of like kind of the horizon target, and we'll just be talking about it for the next year to make that a reality. And there will be a lot of milestones that pop up in the meantime, but that's really the direction that everything's going.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, super exciting. Yeah, pretty much stay tuned. Know that we're all, working in the back here, trying to get this thing to where we all want it to be. Packet TV is it's a large endeavor, and
it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, huge endeavor, and just giving it back to the community. Really, getting creators to have the ability to be fairly distributed, fairly owned. And also having a place where people can, find content. I think that's also really important.
For sure. I also think, the other thing you said, just getting distribution, and I think a lot of artists, creators, this is like a real pain point. And this is where I think crypto can absolutely thrive. I don't know if anybody has read the original Tron white paper. But if you go back and read the Tron white paper, this is like very much what it was talking about. Entertainment. Even though if you go read the English version of the Tron white paper, it literally reads like it was written by like a 7-year-old. It's like barely functional English, really bad. But if you can make it through that white paper, it was all about building like kind of an entertainment studio and using crypto for transactions. And really it's really actually I remember when we were starting Packet and I read that, I was like, damn, this project's like doing it. They're like copying us, I remember feeling that. They had a lot more resources, there's no question about it, and been one of the more successful projects ever. But what's interesting about Tron is that it wasn't a straight line to where it is today. There was a lot of assets that they acquired along the way. One of them was they did what was that? BitTorrent. He like bought BitTorrent. Like there were a bunch of things that he did that kind of built out their vision that all collected into what Tron was. And so it's just when you look back on what it takes for a project to have staying power. And sure, I mean, I wish Packet could have maintained in the 9-figure market cap, but we just had a lot of straw men that said that they were here to help and really weren't, and didn't get a lot of community support as far as like really holding up the price and what that took to do it. And we never raised the 50 million or 100 million that a lot of these projects got to start with. So the goal obviously is to get back to having the substantiation to support higher market cap and a bigger audience, bigger community. So I'd love to see that happen. My hope is as the application and the utility of the tech becomes more substantiated, that we can start to rally around more people from the crypto community that can get involved, more expertise. We have some hitters sitting in the wings. I can tell you that right now. There's some absolute hitters that as soon as we can activate them, a lot of them are financially motivated, but as soon as we can activate some of these players, it can be extremely impactful. But unfortunately, a little bit of a chicken before the egg situation. It's like, oh, we'll just bring them in. It's like, okay, well, you got 60 grand to pay this person. Like that's some of the requirements to get things going. So I definitely got to move a lot of cash around in crypto these days to get things happening. And we also know from a market making standpoint, even though we got to, even in the market dip, the liquidity pool is held strong, but we know that there's if a major buyer came in and dropped even like a few $100,000 in that LP, the price would fly. And so it's just getting people comfortable with wanting to hold this coin. And so the hope is that this story and just staying with it, could start to bring back a refreshed community around the base token in particular, and really get this thing moving in the right direction. Josh used the word paint the chart. It's really just, I mean, there's some of that there, but it's really just getting people excited about holding the token.
Yeah, and being able to use the token to, potentially pay for content, and that's how, and then people get, rewarded or paid out, they can choose to get paid out in crypto or in cash,
Yeah.
So, well, lots of positive things to look forward to. On our next stream next week, we'll have Ann on jump on and introduce himself to the community, and hopefully we'll be in a full swing in the first iterate of this marketing push that we're talking about doing.
And we'll hopefully be launching the Packet website for Packet TV. We're really close. There's just like some final stupid tweaks that need to be changed, but for the most part, it's looking pretty fire. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. What is the timeline on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically done. There's, like I said, the things that need to be fixed are so minor. I was like inclined to just show it because but there's just this one thing that's on the spot A that is just really annoying.
What's going on with the news site too, Josh? Did you ever get that updated? All the graphics?
What?
The news.pkt?
Yeah, it's fixed.
With the H1s.
Uh-huh.
Nice. What's the URL on that?
Hub.pkt.
Or isn't it news.pkt live or something?
Actually, it doesn't look like.
Yeah, I don't think it's up.
Well, it is. It's the news. It's hub.pkt.tv/newshub. But yeah, he hasn't fixed those.
/news hub. I thought we had a URL.
We do, but we haven't set that up yet.
Huh. Wait. So hub.pkt.live/.
hub.pkt.tv/newshub.
TV/newshub. And so so it doesn't work for the for all the different URLs. Yeah, no, the H1s aren't changed.
That's what I just said. But we have a whole new backend that's where all that stuff is going to be edited. So that's what Caleb and I have been working on with that developer to make it so that we can switch out all the sliders and stuff and manage it all ourselves.
Yeah, those sliders are H1. It's just been painful to look at. I thought we switched it. I thought Dimitri got us those new ones.
They did. He designed them, but they haven't been developed.
I see. Okay. Well, yeah, this will be cool once this is up, having the news hub and having, this is painful to look at, but it'd be great to get the carousel updated, and just be able to get this kind of news feed going. It'd be nice to just be able to go check the news. But yeah, you're right. It's right off of Hub. So if you do go to just hub.pkt.tv, there's a bunch of content here, stuff going on.
Well, you can check the news for sure. All that works. It's just
except for the only
sliders
at the slider doesn't work.
Yeah, but the news. I mean, people can literally go to the Packet Hub and check the news. It's got your news. It's got business. It's got lifestyle, tech, celebrity, crypto news.
Yeah.
So
worth checking out. Yeah, check in. And by the way, if anybody wants to put stuff up on this site, how can they do that, Josh? They can submit a channel. On the Creator Hub, it says submit a channel on Creator Hub. That should say. Would that be a channel? I guess.
Yeah, it's a channel.
Okay. So submit a channel. If you want to put some content up here, if you got anything, TV, podcast, music, movies, get it up on the hub. The companies, apps, like literally just anything that people want to put up here. It's all possible. Technology, casino, bunch of casino partners up here. So yeah, go check it out. Hub.pkt.live and our hub.pkt.tv. And yeah, see what's up.
Sweet.
Cool.
All right. Cool.
Awesome, guys.
Have a great week.
You all. Yeah, thanks for jumping on with us today. And if you're still on here with us, please repost, comment, like this on X or YouTube, wherever you're watching. And yeah, we'll be back here next week, every Wednesday. And we'll see you guys on the next one.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, guys. All right.